If you click this video away, then please tell me what the reason was so that I can improve. Otherwise, hi and welcome. I'm trying to learn climatology today, mountain tundra, and after we've done that, we're gonna do leg injury prevention training. And if you participate in the leg injury prevention training, then it's that at your own risk. This is the second time that we're doing mountain tundra. We're gonna read now over the text, and we try to memorize the important things, and then we try to do a presentation out of memory. Mountain tundra. Just as there are varying life zones between the equator and the poles, so there are varying zones of life on mountains, each with its typical community of plants and animals. This is largely because the temperature drops by about 0.2 degrees Celsius for every 100 meters. Mount Kenya near the equator, there in Africa, has as great a range of life zones in its 5,200 meters high as there are in the 10,500 kilometers between it and the poles regions. So we're saying, if you walk from Mount Kenya upwards, there are different zones of life. At one stage, completely known what is going on there. Some type of savanna probably. But if you come higher then, there are different zones growing. And there are then, at around 2,000 meters, no trees anymore. And then less and less plants and so on. It's the same as they think, or similar, as if you would go from the Mount Kenya in Africa down to the poles or up to the North Pole. There are different zones there. So it gets colder, the more north or south, and there are different things growing, different plants, different things. But it's not completely the same as going north or south. But like it basically, you go higher and every 100 meters it is 0.2 degrees Celsius colder, and so on and on. The tree line, for instance, the line above which trees cannot grow, varies from about 3,500 meters on the equator in Africa to about 2,000 meters in the European Alps. They are saying here at around 2,000 meter high mountains in the Alps, or 3,500 in Africa and Mount Kenya, there are no trees anymore growing. Fir trees growing a bit higher and so on, but basically from around 2,000, 2,500 to 3,000 meters, there are no trees anymore. Beyond this line, the vegetation dwindles to tundra similar, in some ways to that of the Arctic, which with mosses and lichens. But the alpine tundra can also sustain more plants than would survive in the Arctic. The slope of the mountains means that water drains away and does not form a permanent layer of ice, as happens on flatland. There is also more intense solar radiation. As soon as the snow melts in the early spring, bulbs burst into flower and herbs bloom into the summer. We're saying there, it is a bit like the tundra regions, there, higher in the mountains from over the tree line, 3,000, 4,000 meters high, with mosses and lichens, but there are slopes that the water drains away and does not stay there on flat land like in the tundra in other regions, for example in Siberia or Russia. Or also Canada. In Canada or Russia. And the other thing, just there's more solar radiation as in the north of Canada or north of Russia or Siberia, because they are closer to the center of the Earth. That is the first thing, and they are higher up for these two regions. Okay, we have information together. Mountain tundra. The higher someone goes on the mountain, the lower goes the temperature, 0.2 per 100 meters, and then tree line 2,000 meters above vegetation, not so much like in tundra, mosses and lichens, but there is no water staying because it has slopes and steep areas, And there's also an intenser solar radiation. That means as soon as spring hits, flowers are bursting up and herbs are blooming during the summer. Where is now our mountain tundra? We want to save it here on the map. Where is mountain tundra? The black thing. So we have it here in Peru and Chile, I think it's normal. That explains a lot. There is mountain tundra in South America for the Andes. Okay, so through Ecuador down, and then Peru, and then Chile, and in North America, it could be still Honduras, a bit of Mexico. We had that country there. It was Costa Rica. We did a video about it. That is more north. That is Mexico. Okay, we completely sighted down the mountains, from the North American Rocky Mountains to the Andes down. And then heading through the United States of America, and then also up to Canada, Alaska. And in Europe, it is also. Now I don't know it exactly. I would like to say that it is the Almeria Desert in Spain, but it could be also next to it. Basically, my question is on what height is the Almeria Desert in Spain? Maybe it's more Andalusia, but I don't know exactly in Spain. So it's also in the southern part of Spain, and in the Alps in France, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, Germany, also Slovenia, and Bosnia-Herzegovina, Croatia, Slovenia, and then down to Albania, then through Turkey, the whole region down, then through north of Syria, must it be, I don't know exactly, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, then down even to India. That is interesting. We're doing currently Alexander the Great, and it looks almost the same as Alexander the Great was doing 2,500 years ago. And then down even, no, but it's not that. I don't know exactly. Also then Central Arabia, and then again in the Himalaya, in China, India, Pakistan, and then in north through Russia up to Siberia, and also, if we believe him, a little part there, I think it's New South Wales in Australia and on New Zealand. Okay, we have it. Mountain tundra, different types of climate zones on the things, tree line, mosses and lesions, water drains away, solar flowers, and then the region. And in Africa also. That must be Kenya. Tanzania is more south, but I'm going to say Kenya. Kenya, South Africa, on Madagascar, in Yemen, and Saudi Arabia a bit. I don't know exactly what. Okay, I'm going to start the camera and then I try to save it. Mountain tundra. If one climbs a mountain up, there are different stages basically of climate zones, of life zones. And every 100 meters around someone goes higher, the temperature falls by 0.2 degrees. So after 1,000 meters, 5 degrees colder. After 2,000 meters, 10 degrees colder. So, and that means that there are different plants growing and things. And there's now the mountain tundra basically, then in higher areas. The tree line is by around 2,000 meters. In Africa it are more 3,500. And from there on there are basically no trees anymore growing, just mosses and lesions and things. But it's not completely the same as tundra in other regions of northern Canada, in Russia, in the region in Siberia or in Alaska. It's a bit differently, because there in the tundra, there is it flat and the water stays there and the ground just standing there and it freezes to ice. In the mountain tundra, there are slopes, the hills are steep and the water runs down, so there's no ice layer. And also, when spring comes then about in the mountain tundra regions, there's a lot of solar radiation because it's higher up. So the sunlight is not going through so much air until it hits the ground on the earth, because the mountain is already a bit high. The most is here in the first parts of air, so the sunlight comes more direct on it. That's also the reason why going into the mountain can be a bit dangerous and people have to protect a bit with clothes so they don't get sunburned and so on. And now these mountain tundra regions, they are different places. They are, for example, through the Andes in Southern America, through Chile and Peru, and then through Ecuador, over then also Honduras and Mexico and the western part of the United States of America up, and then also the western part of Canada, up to Alaska. But also in Europe and the Alps and southeastern France and Switzerland, Austria, northern Italy, southern Germany, and then down also the Adriatic Sea on the eastern side, with Slovenia and Corsica, with Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Albania, down through Turkey and even further on then, even more, and also a bit in Africa, in Central Africa, in Kenya, at the Lake Victoria on both sides, a bit in Southern Africa, also in Southern Australia, in New Zealand, in the Himalaya, in China, in Tibet, in Pakistan, and there. And that is according to pages 1084 and 1085 of the Reader's Digest, Library of Modern Knowledge, Book 3, Part 22, Regions of the Earth, written by Hugh Clayton, John Coyle, Michael Frenchman, and D.H. Sinclair. I'm going to stop the camera. That was the climatology part. If you were here for climatology, you can go directly to the next part of climatology, and then we're going to do the next thing. We have around 6 minutes left. If you stay here and participate in the leg injury prevention training, that is very honest. Have a good standing leg, and the other leg speaks front and to the side. Other leg, and front and to the side. And now the foot in front and back. Other leg in front and back. And now one leg up with legs up. Leg over to one side, arms over to one side. Change. And down and up and over. Move over. Middle and down. And now one leg up and we're pressing up and to the side. Other leg up, press up to the side. Stand good on one leg. This exercise can go onto the knee, breathe in. No, breathing is not important. Go over to the side. Down. Turn slowly over to the other side. Up. You can breathe to measure the time it's over. Stand on the other leg. Turn over. Down. Slowly over. And up. And now one hand on tummy, one on lower back, and the front leg in a straight line. And pull the leg up. Other leg. Control with the hands that you don't fall backwards. Next exercise, one foot points to the outside, the other one with the heel onto the ground. Don't do it if you're pregnant. Lift the heel off the ground and place it again onto the ground. Other leg. One more. And now one leg up, down, down, other one. Another horse. One leg in and out. If you like, you can do the camel by whole body moves. And the other leg up and down. And just in. Legs wide to the sides. We're breathing in, going down. Breathing it out. In and up. And down. Breathe in, cross the legs. And breathing out. That was leg injury prevention planning. I thank you very much, and until next time.